Welcome, everyone, to the Wednesday, January 10th, 2024 Planning Board meeting. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, I would like to open the Citizen Open Forum. Anyone may wish to speak to any item that's not on the agenda for 5 minutes or less is welcome to speak at this time. Anyone wish to speak to the Citizen Open Forum? Seeing no one, I close the Citizen Open Forum. Anyone wishing to speak or give testimony to this board this evening will please stand for a swearing-in process.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
We will now, I request approval of the last meeting's minutes.
Make a motion to be approved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any discussion? No. We accept the minutes. Next is any items to be heard. The comprehensive plan update, item 2, packet page 9. It'll be what the packet. I recognize whoever is going to speak on this item. Please identify yourself.
Is this on or I need to put, no.
I hear you.
Good evening, members of the board. I'm David Dixon, Principal Planner for Calvin Giordano and Associates. I'm here in place of Louis, who's typically here doing these presentations. He has brought me up to speed, but if there are any particular questions that are technical in nature, I might call on necessary staff or other folks as well. So nice to meet you all. And whenever we're ready, I can begin the presentation.
So that's your update?
No, sir.
Works for me. So then we can move on to the next agenda item if you've completed your update. Well, that's what my agenda said. It says 2023 Comprehensive Plan Update, packet page 9. If you have nothing
Yes.
further to add to that.
No, we get the presentation on the, yes, we have a presentation.
Please proceed.
Here we go. Okay. All right, thank you. Like I said, my name is Dave Dixon. I'm a planner for Calvin Giordano. I do want to acknowledge all the staff work that has gone into this, and I believe some are available here today to answer technical questions as mentioned. We'll have plenty of time for questions and discussion. This is to update the City of Oldsmar Comprehensive Plan, January 10th, 2024. I'm here presenting on behalf of the consultant team. I believe you've been introduced to some of these slides previously, so we'll go through these fairly quickly. What is a comprehensive plan? It's really your guiding document, your vision document that all your land use decisions are based upon, and it helps provide a roadmap for all kinds of things that physical and policy-wise. It's important because it integrates the community's input and the community vision into what you actually will see on the ground. There was an incredible amount of engagement in this process. Many of it has made itself directly into the policy and certainly into the vision and guiding principles. It was broad and hundreds of data points were received. The following topics do represent the top 10 as far as importance to folks. One of the first things you ask. So you go from the broad themes, the broad topics, to ranking them, to actually turning them into meaningful policy, which some of the updates to those policies we will see for the first couple elements, the 4 elements today. So in addition to the state statute required element topics, the engagement included a number of other things that the community found important, as you can see on this slide. Resilience, sustainability, environmental, this number in parentheses down below each one of these hexagons represents the importance also for that particular topic. And so it's really a 20-year time frame for planning policy and land use policy. The vision statement was an important amalgamation of all the input received from the community, and it's a really good, important thing because it provides the guiding principles for some of the shifts in policies, some of the new policies that were brought up during this process. So really, it's important for future updates. This is kind of when 3, 5, 10 years down the road, any of the planners or any of you who are updating this plan can open to this page and quickly see what you all were thinking at this point in time. I like this one because it's really concise. It says a lot with very few words, and it's very direct and obvious what the vision is for the community. These are the elements, required elements of a comprehensive plan by Florida statute. You received an update on a few of them on the previous meeting. Today we are doing future land use, transportation, housing, and infrastructure, which big ones, the ones that really you can have physical outcomes from a policy standpoint. So with that, we'll go into the first element, which is future land use, but I will pause to do the ex parte communications. Correct? Yep.
So this, we're at the ordinance 07? Okay, so first I'm going to read the ordinance by title, and then we'll move on if the board is ready for me to do that.
Well, I have a question here. I don't have a comprehensive plan update, page 9 in my packet. So that's what I was a little bit confused about. And I'm okay with what this gentleman has presented to us, but I couldn't follow along. Because there isn't one, there's no page 9. So anyway, that being said, thank you. There's no action to be taken at this point. Agenda item 3, public hearing of ordinance 2023-07, amending objectives, policies, future land use and development, City of Oldsmar comprehensive plan. This is a public hearing. Staff presentation.
First, I'm going to read the ordinance by title, and this first one's a long one, so you have to be patient with me. And then we'll move into ex parte communications and conflicts of interest, and then staff will make their presentation.
Thank you.
Ordinance 2023-07, an ordinance of the City of Oldsmar, Florida, amending the goals, objectives, and policies of the future land use element of the City of Oldsmar Comprehensive Plan to reorganize content of future land use element, remove outdated agency names, remove reference to station area planning, and rail goal objectives and policies, add new future land use category, a planned redevelopment category, PRD, incorporate comments from Forward Pinellas to include a specific list of permitted uses for each future land use category, and identify uses subject to acreage thresholds, amendment to residential/office general category to include acreage limitations of 5 acres for residential uses, include statement for density/intensity calculation for all categories having both residential density and non-residential intensity standards, include a required maximum floor area ratio standard for all structures that are allowed to be constructed in the recreation/open space or preservation categories, include a statement meeting the requirements of section 4.2.7.1 of the countywide rules and section 163.3178 sub A of the Florida statutes for any large future land use map amendments that increase densities or intensities within the coastal high hazard area, CHHA, amend policy 2.1.1 referencing CRD development in the CHHA to include reference to section 4.2.7.1 of the countywide rules and section 163.3178 sub A of the Florida statutes, amend policies 5.1.1 and 5.1.2 to reference Chapter 2012-245 Laws of Florida, rename the countywide future land use map to the countywide plan map, update the rules concerning the administration of the countywide future land use plan to the countywide rules, amend Table 1 to reflect residential rural category in its own ROW, and amend Table 1 to add the planned redevelopment district category, update mixed-use development section for consistency with Florida statutes and Pinellas County strategies to include provisions for encouraging walkable, mixed-use infill development and redevelopment, add policies to implement the Forward Pinellas target employment and industrial Land Studies, TIELS, and future amendments to the plan and LDC, providing for codification, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. After all that, I will ask, has there been any ex parte communications or any conflicts of interest regarding this ordinance?
Yes, hello, Tatiana Childress, City of Oldsmar Planning and Redevelopment Director. So we have some ex parte communications to report. Felicia and I met with Jim Mason on Tuesday and Ross Roundhouse on Wednesday, and we discussed the following items. So the overview of the comprehensive plan document and the process. The comprehensive plan has 3 sections: introductions, elements, supporting data. We have provided a clean copy to the entire comprehensive plan to provide an easy-to-read document. There's a summary of changes in the staff report and of each ordinance. Each ordinance contains the strike-through underlined version with proposed changes. Proposed language removes outdated language since the statute changed in 2011. The natural resources conservation element has the most changes, and the coastal element has been separated into its own element to meet the parallel flood requirements, and also the infrastructure element was completely updated. Thank you. And to address the item, if I may at the same time address the second item, so the update to the comprehensive plan was the same clean copy that was provided in the original December planning board meeting. And the overview of the changes, it's a rerun of the same item. So the update is basically, since some of the planning board members were not able to attend the December meeting, so we did the same agenda item. The second item was just an overview of the planning effort that was done in the prior year. So that was, I'm sorry if we confused you with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Tatiana. Does the board have any questions of staff? Ross? None? No questions. Thank you very much. The applicant, there is no applicant, right? So we will move on to public hearing. I now open a public hearing.
If I may?
What?
There's no applicant necessarily, but there is a presentation from staff through their consultant.
Well,
So, yes.
so, and I went through this the last time. He is, in theory, the applicant.
Yes.
So will
Right.
the applicant then
Yes.
please present?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Thank you. First of the 4 elements to present today, this is the upshot. The reading and the communications mentioned really is going to bring up some points that we will cover again here today. Really, the future land use element, that's where what I call the roadmap meets the reality, which is it's literally a map. Not only does it have densities, intensities of land use categories, which some of which were summarized as mentioned, it also provides a basis to make decisions on land use changes. So the map is backed by the categories for each land use and also goals, objectives, and policies. So really, this is the desired outcome. Where we are today, it might show a different story in the future land use. So the staff did a great job, in my opinion, of putting together some updated policies here, and we'll go through just a couple of those quickly to really part of that is sustainable development, and really this update it appears to emphasize some of the things that have become very important to the community over the last couple of years, and using that map, that they establish a really clear vision of really how these policies are going to steer development outcomes. As mentioned a couple times, the big addition here is the planned redevelopment category, that PRD. A lot of what you'll hear tonight from these brief summaries and introductions I and staff and everyone else will give is that it's to bring everything in line with Forward Pinellas. So that's the kind of big overall goal. So that's part of that is that the PRD matches the category there. The other important thing to point out is the target employment industrial land study, which I think is another way to emphasize through policy your industrial land preservation efforts and promotion efforts, really. Just really emphasis on industrial lands and conserving them. As you can see, there's been policies added to promote continued investment in Cypress Lakes Industrial Park, for example, as pointed out in this slide. Really, the countywide consistency was a major goal, major effort here. All of these bullets were just read, but really adding that specific list of the permitted uses, identification of uses, acreage thresholds, clarifying language. A lot of it's just kind of clean up and update to things, adding floor area ratio maximums and changes for recreation and open space. Again, a lot of clarification, and it really did clean up a lot of things that have been needed to be cleaned up over time. There's a goal and a series of objectives and policies nested within that goal. It's goal 6. It's really to promote and emphasize well-designed mixed-use, transit-oriented development. Again, matching some of the forward Pinellas language and land use categories and land use policies there. So these are some of the policies that are nested within that goal. The city will continue to implement and update the Tampa Road corridor planning efforts that have been ongoing. That's kind of a living plan that the city has now been coming in conformance with and emphasis with too. And then accessory dwelling units, there's policy language added for allowing those in certain zoning. So at this time, that's the intro to the future land use element. The staff recommendation is approval, and I will pause there for any staff comments or questions.
Does the board have any questions of the applicant and presenter? None? Question? None?
You want to promote walkability along the Tampa Road corridor. Did I read that right? Understand that right?
Yeah, and if it's my understanding, there are land use categories that are intended to implement that goal and objective. Yes.
Well,
If anybody from
it looks to
staff,
me, looks to me like the Tampa Road corridor is becoming, purely commercial and lots and lots of traffic. I mean, I live, 5 minutes away, and it took me 20 minutes to get here tonight because of traffic. So it looks to me like the Tampa Road corridor is getting busier and busier and busier. And why do you want to make it walkable, and why do you want to make it walkable? I guess that's my question, because I just don't see that as being a walkable area.
I can try to address this. As part of the study, so we had the consultant who created a vision for Tampa Road Corridor. And basically, it started back in 2006 when Marie Dauphiné, prior planning director, introduced the Tampa Road Corridor overlay. So this is something, Tampa Road Corridor is a very busy road, as you mentioned. Yeah. But we want people to slow down, to understand that they're in the city limits, and to make sure that all of the businesses, they're not designed for cars, they're more or less designed for people. So you would be able to maybe have some connections in the back of the neighborhood and to have that walkable connection to the Tampa Road, the businesses that are located on Tampa Road itself, but have a connection back in the neighborhood to it, and also have a cross connection between the businesses so that you don't have to do, cuts in and out from the business to Tampa Road, but you can actually go from one plaza to another plaza or from one business to the other business. So it's the whole concept of interconnectivity between the businesses. It's the, you slow down and you kind of like see the pedestrians on the street, and the pedestrian can actually walk from one place to the other. That's a newer concept of promoting the businesses. The businesses like it these days as well. Have some kind of like outdoor seating, especially with COVID. We've all seen the outdoor seating kind of like expanded. That's basically what's behind it. I don't know if I answered.
I understand the concept of, going from business to business without going back out on the road.
Yes,
And that's fabulous. That's what
And
it should
together
be.
with that, you can actually walk from one business to the other as long as you have a safe sidewalk that connects those businesses. So you may be parked in one plaza and you can just walk to the other plaza. But today, in some of the businesses, you have berms, you have other features that will not allow you to, or there will be actually a physical barrier that will be between the businesses, and you will not be able to walk from one business to the other easily. So,
Okay, so then we're not really talking about putting sidewalks on the side of the road so much as we're talking about putting accessibility away from the road.
correct. Or making those sidewalks on both sides more like a boulevard. So think about the, it's not exactly a highway, but highway to a boulevard concept, yes. So it's making the sidewalks maybe wider, separating them from the travel lane by buffers, by green space, and making that space more pedestrian friendly.
Oh, okay, all right, thank you. Thank you, Tatiana.
Thank you.
Any other questions of staff
No question.
or the presenter or applicant? Seeing none, and I kind of already opened the public hearing. I'll reiterate that it is open. Does anyone in the audience wish to speak in favor of this item? Please, seeing none. Will anyone like to speak in opposition to this item? Seeing none. Did we receive any written comments on this item? Hearing none. And everyone has spoken. I will close the public hearing. I seek a motion on this item from the board.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move to recommend approval to the City Council of the future land use element update of the Comprehensive Plan Ordinance 2023-07 as it's been presented.
Thank you.
Second?
All in favor? Roll call vote, please.
Board Member Roundhouse,
Aye.
Board Member Sack,
Aye.
Vice Chair Harvey,
Aye.
Chair Van Buren.
Aye. Motion passes. Oh, any discussion from the board? Seeing none, the motion passes 4-0. Moving on to item number 4, public hearing of ordinance 2308. You have the floor, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Ordinance 2023-08, an ordinance of the City of Oldsmar, Florida, amending the goals, objectives, and policies of the transportation element of the City of Oldsmar Comprehensive Plan to remove specific language under Mobility Management System, Policy 1.1.1, to reference provisions in the related Pinellas County ordinances, and adopt City of Oldsmar Land Development Ordinance regulations, including policies on micromobility, golf cart user accommodations, and multimodal provisions, update language on design standards regarding livable/complete streets, include direction to establish a complete streets, and encourage content-sensitive design street improvements that accommodate multiple transportation methods and all users regardless of age or ability, incorporate updated policy language from Advantage Pinellas regarding corridor planning, revise language on right-of-way protection with specific strategies to ensure adequate right-of-way, add language developing an approach for implementation of Safe Streets Pinellas Action Plan, Vision Zero planning and traffic calming programs in the city, providing for codification, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. At this time, I'd ask if there have been any ex parte communications or any conflicts regarding this ordinance.
Yes, thank you. So the same ex parte communications that I've already reported, but this is for this ordinance. So again, Felicia and I met with Jim Mason on Tuesday and Ross Roundhouse on Wednesday. We discussed the following item: the overview of the comprehensive plan, the fact that the comprehensive plan has 3 chapters, introduction, elements, and supporting documents. We have provided a clean copy of the entire comprehensive plan for the easy-to-read document. There's a summary of the changes in the staff report. And each ordinance contains a strike-through and underline version. With the proposed changes, proposed language removes outdated language since the statutes changed in 2011. The natural resources conservation element has the most changes, and the coastal element has been separated into its own element to meet the parallel flood requirements. And also the infrastructure element was completely redone. Thank you.
Thank you, Tatiana. Does any questions of staff? Nope. Seeing none. The applicant, do you have the presenter presentation, please?
Yes, sir. Briefly, thank you. So this is an element that deals with all things transportation, and I'll just point out a couple of things that were emphasized or added or introduced that have become important to the community over time and to implement its vision. This is really to coordinate local transportation planning, network, everything with the Forward Pinellas. Again, not to sound like a broken record, but that's a very important thing to make sure that all the policies and maps and everything are integrated with that effort. Also, the emphasis on multimodal and intermodal systems and the public transit public transportation system has policies that have been emphasized as well. Some of the ads and just in introduction, some of the partners and stakeholders in the transportation policy for the city of Oldsmar have been emphasized and added, and then integrated all the plans, all the initiatives, and all the guiding documents that are also inputs to the plan, ultimately leading to goals, objectives, and policies. Those have all been updated and made cohesive and consistent. Some of the additions, as mentioned in the reading, there's encouragement of more multimodal transportation, really thinking about how the whole network can accommodate all modes, including pedestrians, bicycles, golf courts, et cetera, golf carts, scooters. Other things that have come up since the last time the plan's been updated, just to make sure that we have a framework in place that should people choose to take these modes, which it's certainly motivating to, there's a policy in place to support that. And whatever comes next, who knows what next form of transportation is going to be out there. Some of the other revisions, again, coordination with Forward Pinellas, some of the State Department of Transportation policies, context-sensitive roadway design. So rather than just thinking about number of cars you can move, it's thinking about what's around that particular spot, that site, that network, where things are connected and where the nodes are, and all those kinds of things. Considering many things when you're thinking about improvements to the network and the land use surrounding it. Some more technical things have been updated. Vacation of rights of ways, alleys, easements. Some of that stuff has been supported by the policies in this update, and connectivity between this neighborhood north and south of Tampa Road, another point of emphasis. Just quickly, safety is obviously a huge piece of any kind of bike, pedestrian, vehicle network. So these are some policies that have been added or changed or emphasized to support some of those safety efforts, like Vision Zero, for example, reducing traffic fatalities, injuries to zero at some point in the future. Traffic calming. So whenever those projects are done, this document, goals, objectives, and policies provide the background and the framework for which to make some decisions on traffic calming as well. With that, I will again pause for staff comments and questions.
Does the board have any questions of the presenter applicant?
Question?
No questions.
You have a set of goals. I have one. You have a set of goals, objectives, policies. A goal. Is one of the goals stated directly, which I didn't see, pedestrian overpasses? Which we kind of alluded to the last time we talked.
So we do not have the pedestrian overpass as a goal, or it's an objective, a separate objective. There will have to have a separate feasibility study, since the last one was done so many years ago, and the cost estimate changed significantly for that overpass.
So it's not even on the board. I mean, it's not even on the list.
The overpass itself is not, while we're reviewing other alternatives for a safe connection between the north and the south. So it may not be feasible to install the pedestrian overpass, especially that will accommodate the golf carts. So that was one of the questions that came up a while ago. And maybe the Public Works Director, Daniel Simpson, could further address
He's
the
hovering.
connectivity between. Thank you.
So it's not explicitly Daniel Simpson, Director of Public Works.
Evening.
It's not explicitly called out. We didn't want to strap ourselves with that kind of policy. We do want to have safe pedestrian connections from the north to south, and potentially golf carts, although that's a little harder to accommodate. But I think that our focus on multimodal safety, meaning all forms, gives us the blanket policy to pursue something like that.
Yeah, I can't picture a golf cart going over a pedestrian overpass, but when you talk about walkability earlier, Tampa Road, getting from north to south is a danger moment. So that's why, I mean, the discussions years ago for one at the end of 580 and the one right there at St. Pete Drive, and I was kind of wondering if any of that played into our goals at this time. But you answered my question.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, I will open a public hearing on this item. Does anyone wish to speak in favor of this item? Seeing no one, does anyone wish to speak in opposition of this item? Seeing no one, I move on. Is anyone written in regards to this item? Hearing none. Now that everyone has spoken, I will close the public hearing. I entertain a motion on agenda item 4.
Mr. Chairman, could I make a comment?
Yes, any discussion? Oops. Yeah, no, go ahead. Discussion's later.
We were talking about golf carts, and me, I talk about scooters because I have to use one when I'm on my feet more than 5 minutes or so. I think that even if you do,
We got bugs in here. They're flying around. Sorry, I was applauding you.
you sure you saw a bug?
Floaters.
Anyway, I think if you do, if you were looked at overpasses or something like that, you can correct me, Dan, if I'm wrong, but I think ADA is going to require you to have it accessible for scooters, and so it won't be just stairs, going up. You'll have to have a ramp,
Ramps,
have a ramp too, and I think I think ADA will mandate that, right, Daniel?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. This goes back to what I was talking about earlier. It's, you're talking about, we want to have accessibility for, walkability, the golf carts, and I understand the golf carts you said they were harder to accommodate, but isn't that going to be, don't they have to have a special license to be out on a public highway anyway?
A low-speed vehicle right now, it's very difficult to get a crossing for golf carts.
Okay.
Low-speed vehicles can cross when the speed limits are under a certain amount. I don't know if I answered that question. Can you repeat what you're asking?
I'm not real sure what I'm asking, but you're looking at not necessarily you're looking at walkability, bicycles, golf carts, scooters, and all these things. And I'm just thinking, in my own mind, and I'm not a public works, and I'm not a planner and all, but I'm thinking, but I have been in rehabilitation all my life, so I'm thinking about how are you going to make that compatible to income? I mean, that's when you're talking about putting all of these things in, plus I'll use the term sidewalks for lack of better term, but you're putting all these things in. I mean, how are you going to be able to afford all that if you do it properly? If you do it properly, yeah.
There's a lot of grant money focused on traffic safety, especially from pedestrian safety and
Okay,
accessibility.
okay.
Additionally, we are, when there's new development that comes in, we're requiring them to bring everything up adjacent up to
Right.
standards. So that's how we approach it, that if we can get the businesses that come in to do their part, and then we look for grants to do transportation projects, which we've been very successful at getting for the St. Pete Drive project, the Burbank project, the Douglas Road project, all have had substantial grant funding.
Grant money, okay, well, that's good. I didn't realize that there was that much grant money available. Okay, again, I'm just, I'm trying to think ahead and ask questions. That's all, thank you.
So we, at this point, are done our discussion, and do we have a motion? I don't think we have a motion yet.
I'll make a motion that we recommend the approval of ordinance 2023-08 to the city council for approval.
A second, please?
Second.
All in favor, roll call vote?
Board Member Roundhouse?
Yay.
Board Member Suck?
Aye.
Vice Chair Harvey?
Aye.
Chair Rambier.
Aye. Any discussion by the board on this item? Any further discussion? Hearing none, motion passes 4-0. Okay, now, public hearing of ordinance 2023-09. You have the floor, ma'am.
Thank you. Ordinance 2023-09, an ordinance of the City of Oldsmar, Florida, amending the goals, objectives, and policies of the infrastructure element of the City of Oldsmar Comprehensive Plan to modernize language and policies that are brought up to date with external applicable laws and regulations, adjust the objectives language to indicate conditions that need to change, and policy language to indicate, excuse me, actionable steps for the city to take to achieve objective. Update the water resources section to better reflect the projects and goals associated with the reverse osmosis plant, and substantial changes needed to capture this change. Update the drainage and stormwater elements to be consistent with goals and requirements of the new state legislation, providing for codification, providing, excuse me, I'm sorry, providing for severability and providing for an effective date. At this time, I'd ask if there's been any ex parte communications or if there's any conflicts of interest related to this ordinance.
Yes, thank you. Ex parte communications to report again. Felicia and I met with Jim Mason and Ross Roundhouse. We discussed the following items. So we provided the overview of the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan has 3 sections: introductions, elements, and supporting data. We provided the clean copy for the easy-to-read document. There is a summary of changes in the staff report and also each ordinance. Each ordinance contains strike-through and underlined version with the proposed changes. The proposed language removes outdated language in reference to 9J5. The natural resources and conservation element has the most changes, and the coastal element has been separated into its own element to meet the parallel flood requirements. And we also the infrastructure element was completely updated. Thank you.
Thank you, Tatiana. Presenter on this item, please.
Yes, sir, thank you.
You have the floor.
Okay, infrastructure element, your staff and your consultants did an excellent job, I think, going through this and really providing all the technical nuts and bolts things. This is just a reflection of some of the policy changes and additions. So I'll kind of go through it quickly, and if there's any questions, I think I'll be able to answer those. Infrastructure includes potable water, sanitary sewer, stormwater, solid waste, natural groundwater recharge, anything to, any necessary public facilities and services provided. So one of the bigger additions is that clarifications on intergovernmental partnerships for our provision of all these services are emphasized in the goals, objectives, and policies. So each one of these slides kind of represents one of those sub-element areas. Potable water, level of service standards were updated to reflect system performance and projections going forward. Some of these objectives here, supporting budget plans, citywide water meter upgrades, replacements, those kinds of things. So this is, again, just a policy backing to do future service updates for infrastructure in the future. So making sure everything's tied together, everything's cohesive, everything makes sense, and you have enough going forward for projecting the future populations. Sanitary sewer is the other one. So some examples: support reduction of reclaimed water disposal into the bay, reducing stormwater impacts on the sanitary system, support practices projects that increase resiliency. Resiliency is one of the things that I think has been an emphasis for a lot of infrastructure systems, just what happens in case. So you'll see some of these things repeated through the policies. Solid waste, again, minimize generating solid waste to conserve natural resources. Drainage is the other infrastructure piece that had additions or emphasis. Promote natural movement of water within watersheds, protect and enhance ecological features. A lot of intersection with ecological policies going forward, again, coming from the community vision, some of the community input and other inputs. So again, staff and others are here to provide answer any questions. If there's any additional comments from anybody, at this point, staff recommends approval of this particular element. I'll stop for questions.
Does the board have any questions for the staff or the presenter?
No questions.
I do. You said, I mean, I don't see the infrastructure element in this wonderful book here. And there was a point there that said reduce the amount of reclaimed water going into the bay. Why do we have, during our drought period, why did we have watering restrictions on reclaimed water if we're still putting it in the bay? Are we still putting it in the bay?
We are trying to reduce discharge to the bay.
Right?
Not, reclaimed water is one of the strategies we have to reduce how much we're sending to the bay. Does that make sense?
Right. So use all you want on your lawn would be the theory, right? So less would go in the bay. Just a thought. I mean, you know, I saw that there and wait, aren't we already doing that?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Jonna Jan. I'm the Assistant Public Works Director.
Yes.
So there are just periods when we have not enough reclaimed water or we have a surplus of reclaimed water. And in those times when we have a surplus, it has to go somewhere. People aren't using it. It's like the last few days, we've had a lot of rain, right? So people aren't using reclaimed water. So then we have those periods in time where we have to discharge to the bay, unfortunately. So what we need to do is promote projects and reclaim water use and other disposal methods instead of discharging it to the bay.
Why don't you give it to us for free on rainy days so you don't have to put it into the bay? Just a thought. All right, thank you.
Well, we could also take some of that grant money and
Put it in a
the
big
lines
tank.
into Harbor Palms.
Yeah, put it in a tank.
Right?
Okay, so we don't have any more questions. So now I open the public hearing, and I would seek anybody that would, in the audience, would like to speak in favor of this item. Seeing none, I'll move on to anyone like to speak in opposition to this item. Seeing none, I would ask the clerk if we received any correspondence in regards to this item. Hearing none, and everyone has not spoken, I will close the public hearing. I will seek a motion on this item number 5.
Chairman, I move to recommend approval to the City Council of the infrastructure element update of the Comprehensive Plan Ordinance 2023-09 as it's been presented.
Thank you, sir. I hear a second. All in favor by roll call?
Board Member Roundhouse,
Aye.
Board Member Stock,
Aye.
Vice Chair Harvey,
Aye.
Chair Reindeer.
Aye. Board have any further discussion on this item? Motion passes 4-0. All right, item number 6, public hearing of ordinance 23-12.
Thank you. Ordinance 2023-12, an ordinance of the City of Oldsmar, Florida, amending the goals, objectives, and policies of the housing element of the City of Oldsmar Comprehensive Plan to update Appendix A to include updated data and an analysis report and remove outdated reference to the 9J5 FAC, update policy 2.1.1, and remove any language related to the density incentive near guided rail or bus rapid transit to reference a proposed planned redevelopment district land use category appropriate for future mixed-use development as part of the Advantage Pinellas Corridor Planning Guidelines, providing for codification, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. This time I'd ask if there's been any ex parte communications or if there are any conflicts of interest regarding this ordinance.
Yes, we have the same ex parte communications to report for this ordinance. Felicia and I met with Jim Mason on Tuesday and Ross Roundhouse on Wednesday. We discussed the following items: overview of the comprehensive plan document. Comprehensive plan has 3 sections, including introduction, elements, and the supporting data. We provided a clean copy of the entire comprehensive plan to provide an easy-to-read document. There is a summary of changes in the staff report on each ordinance. Each ordinance contains a strike-through and underlined version with proposed changes. Proposed language removes outdated language in reference to 9J5. The natural resources conservation element has been updated the most, and the coastal element has been separated into its own element to meet the parallel flood requirements, and also the infrastructure element was completely updated. And I apologize if, Dale, you didn't receive the section of infrastructure in the clean copy, so you do have it as a strike-through underline, correct? So we'll provide you an updated one. Maybe it was just a misprint. But I do have here a copy I can send you home with the one that has infrastructure element, and we also have an electronic submittal. So if you had a link, it should have been in the email link format. Thank you.
Thank you. Presentation, please. Oh, any questions of staff? I'm sorry. I'm seeing none. You have a presentation in regard to this, sir?
Yes,
Take your
sir.
time. It's okay. It's
All
early
right,
yet.
and quickly, the housing element. See if I can find my piece here. All right. Housing is, again, the policy backbone for doing any kind of future housing, well, to guide the growth of future housing projects and land use areas, densities, all these things looking forward. What the update has done is identified some of the existing things that have happened and changed since the last update. Look at some of those trends, try to quantify them, and then create those goals and objectives. Where do you want to go once you have these trends? What are some of the policies that are the outcomes here? And then some alternative approaches to meet some of those needs and goals. And then evaluate housing alternatives and really look at what are some of the emerging housing products, where is the geography of housing growth occurring, all these things. Again, this is the policy backbone for that. There's some cleanup. A lot of this is just kind of cleanup and housekeeping for updates that have changed. For example, the adoption of the new PRD land use category means some cleanup had to occur. And then also an emphasis for providing housing for all age types, older adults, young people, families. That's certainly an emphasis of this update. How do we set it up so when the time comes and when the place comes for this housing to develop, the community has the support behind that. The target employment and industrial land study, again, integrated here with some of the larger Forward Pinellas efforts. There's the Advantage Pinellas County countywide housing compact. Want to make sure that this community's comprehensive plan policies support the efforts of those larger regional planning efforts. So that is all for housing. Staff recommends, planning board recommend approval, and I will stop for questions.
Any questions of staff or the presenter from the board? Hearing none?
Yeah.
No?
One of the things I see here is talks about building setbacks reduced. Does that mean that, like in my neighborhood, we have a 20-foot setback from the sidewalk to the front of the house? Does that mean that we're going to change it to 15 or something like that?
It will not affect the established residential neighborhoods, so the setbacks in those zoning districts will be maintained as is. The reduced setbacks would be more for the mixed-use development.
But basically, it does mean that they're going to be able to build closer to the street. Is that do I understand that correctly?
Correct.
I guess my next question is why?
So to promote, there's a concept in planning. When you bring your porches closer to the road, it creates safety in your neighborhood. And the ideal is to have your garages access from the back so that you have this kind of like walkable, again, all neighbors are watching each other, and it creates kind of like a neighborhood feel. So we have some policies that are already in place in our town center development code that are consistent with new urbanism. They call it new urbanism. So you would have, again, beautiful facades with beautiful porches, reduced front setbacks, and access maybe from the back.
Okay, I understand. I don't agree, but I understand. Yeah, okay.
Well, they're going to do that, they want to do that on the development on St. Pete Drive next to the library where they're murdering all the trees.
Yeah, I know.
Oops,
I know.
political comment. I saw all those pink ribbons around all those beautiful oaks. Thank you, Tatiana. Any more questions of staff? Sorry about editorializing. At this point, I will open the public hearing. Does anyone like to speak in favor of this item? Seeing none, I'll move on. Does anyone like to speak in opposition to this item? Seeing no one, has anyone written correspondence?
No correspondence.
Received none. Now that everyone hasn't spoken, I close the public hearing. I seek a motion on this item number 6.
Chairman, I move to recommend approval to the City Council of the housing element update of the Comprehensive Plan Ordinance 2023-12.
Thank you. A second, please?
Second.
All in favor by roll call, please?
Board Member Roundhouse.
Aye.
Board Member Sack.
Aye.
Vice Chair Harvey.
Aye.
Chair Van Buren.
Aye. Any further discussion of the board on this item? Hearing none, motion passes 4-0. Well, that completes our agenda, except for item number 7. I seek a motion for adjournment.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Does the, please, let's hold. Does the board have any comments or
Oh.
issues in mind? Hearing none. I heard a motion to adjourn. A second, please. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No roll call required. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone. We did that with 4 of us again.
Yeah.